Hey, what's up? Welcome to Nuggets of Gold. Glad you're here joining me. This is an unusual kind of nugget because I found a very unusual verse as I was reading my Bible yesterday. I didn't remember that there was a Bible verse about a toilet. And so let me read that for you. Well, let me set the stage a little bit first. I've been reading in my Bible through the books of the First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles about the history of the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel. Mostly they're ugly histories because the kings lead the people into false religious practices that are really despicable. They adopt the religious practices and follow the gods of the nations around them, often called the Baals. And the worship that they do to these Baals, these gods in the sky, in order to ask them for fertility and ask them for prosperity and ask them for protection, they often did some really despicable things like burning their children or disgusting sexual activities. And so God at various times through these stories kind of brings down the hammer of judgment on the people in order to remind them that this is absolutely not okay. You're harming yourselves. And here in 2 Kings chapter 10, God has raised up a man named Jehu to be an instrument of his justice. Jehu and his men go to a temple of Baal, and we read in verse 27 this. And they demolished the pillar of Baal and demolished the house of Baal and made it a latrine to this day. So they tore down the temple of false worship and they turned it into a toilet. They turned it into a public restroom so that anybody for the next days, months, and years, because it says it is a latrine to this day. For days, months, and years, anybody passing by there would smell. What is that? I thought this was a place where there was a temple, a religious temple, and it smells awful. And they would tell the story, well, this place has become a toilet because God's justice came against the sin of the people. And so this really struck me. Do I see my sin as a treasure or as a toilet? Do I wrestle with the idea that my sin is worth the same to me as a bunch of poop should be worth to me? My sin harms me. My sin harms the people around me. Do I treat my sin like a treasure or like a toilet? And then I think that there's two different really broad categories of sin that I need to think about for myself. There's the category of the sins of commission. Sins of commission, that's the sins we commit. Those are the things that we do. Those are the things that we pursue, acts that we commit, sins of commission. And so it'd be the actions we take to go after sin. And then there's another category that is the sins of omission. And that's the sin that I omit from my life, where I omit the things that I should be doing. What are the things I ought to be doing to honor God, to love God and love others that I'm failing to do? What am I omitting from my life? Am I treasuring something so much that I'm omitting God, or I'm declining to do what God says? Am I treasuring something of the earth so much that it's leading me to trust in that thing, to find my security in that thing, to find my satisfaction in that sin, that activity, that relationship, that substance, that attitude, that demeanor, that whatever? Am I committing sins? Am I omitting righteousness? Am I treating my sin like a treasure or like a toilet? That's the picture that God leaves for us here. He says, the Bible's very honest. Sure, we're going to struggle with sin. Sure, we're going to be tempted. Sure, we're going to get snagged sometime. But then what is our response? Is our response to say, come on, sin, come on, I love you, sin, you take good care of me? Or is my response to say, oh God, help my sin stink to me? Make my sin stink. God, I'm in love with it. God, it's got a hold of me. God, you promise forgiveness for all who ask. And I need you to change my attitude. I need you to make my sin stink. Make me see it like a toilet. Make me see it like feces. Friends, I bring you this today because I was challenged to examine my life, challenged to examine what I'm committing and what I'm omitting, and pray to God to make some things stinky for me. Because when I see my sin as poop, then I'm being set free to see God as more beautiful. And that's what I want for you, to see Him as your treasure and your sin as your toilet. We'll see you next time.